Hello everyone, Rich here and welcome to a new video. Many members asked me about the DXY or the USD index, so here we go. As usual, we'll start with the weekly and daily time frames to know where we stand in the market, if you are overall bullish, if you are overall bearish, or we are stuck inside a range. Right? We want to know where we stand in the market so that we decide if you are looking for trend following sell setups or trend following buy setups, or of course sell around resistance and buy around support. Then when we identify the market structure, for example, if we are overall bullish or we are around support resistance, we'll zoom into lower time frames and look for potential entry opportunities on H4, H1, or even M30 time frame. So let's get started, right? And as you can see, we started with the weekly time frame. First of all, we'll start with drawing our support and resistance. And as you clearly see, I've already highlighted the main or nearest support and resistance now. You can see that we have a very strong support and resistance zone around here. Many rejections from it. Here it was acting as, here we go, acting as resistance again, and then price broke it upward. So it's now acting as support and now acting as support. We also have, here we go. We also have a resistance around here, acting as resistance and support. So it's now acting as resistance since price is below it, right? And we also, if price breaks this resistance upward, then our next resistance would be around this one. Here we go, 1 and 3. So from a weekly perspective, we know that the XY is currently sitting inside this floor. Now we can zoom in, and yes, so as price approached, right, since it already happened, our support, we could look for buy setups. And of course, as price approaches our resistance, we will be looking for sell setups. And as usual, our support and resistance are not levels on our charts, and they are zones, right? So for price to break this resistance, it has to make many big bullish candles to confirm that this resistance is broken for every type trader. So for example, if trader A has his resistance around here, trader B around here, C, D, E. So we want the price to break all the possible resistance zones for all traders, right? And of course, when the resistance is broken, it now becomes support, and we'll be looking for buy setups on its retest. But for now, since the XY from a weekly perspective is sitting inside this floor, we're only interested in selling this one around resistance and buying this one around support, right? So now we know where we stand in the market. And of course, we are, as you can see, overall bearish. We can see it even clearer on daily time frame. Price is currently making lower lows and lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. Here we go. We can see that this high is higher than this high. So lower high again, and now we are still in a bearish trend. And we can see impulse movement, very big, small corrective, very big impulse, small corrective. Here we go. So now we are in the corrective phase. Let me show you an example. Corrective, impulse, right? Impulse, corrective, impulse, impulse, corrective, corrective. So now we are still overall bearish on the XY, but we are now in the corrective phase, especially that price is sitting around the support. Since we are looking from daily time frame, we can look for buy setups on the corrective movement, since the corrective movement lasts for a couple of days or even weeks, as you can see here. And especially that if the corrective movement is sitting around support, for example, like here and here as well, right? And as you can see here as well. So we could look for buy here, and of course, when this one is broken downward, now it becomes resistance. And just like here as well, let me delete the previous ones. Here we go. So we could look for buy setups here and here as well. And this one is broken downward. Now this support is turned into a resistance as price broke it with many big bearish candles, right? So now we are still overall bearish, but since price is approaching a resistance, it would be a good idea to look for sell setups around here. And here we go. So we are overall bullish from a short-term perspective since we have a corrective, right? But we are still bearish from a long-term perspective, and we would be looking for trend following sell setups like here, here, and here around this area, unless DXY or USD breaks above this resistance aggressively, then we'll be looking for trend following buy setups, as then and only then the momentum would be shifted from bullish to bearish, and of course we will be able to draw a trend line and so on. In this case, it would be stuck inside these two trend lines, and we'll be looking for buy and sell setups accordingly. But for now, let's take it step by step. For now, previously we looked for buy setups around here, and now to know where we stand the market on our time frames, we can even zoom in, for example, to H4. And if we zoom out, we can see that this trend that we saw on daily time frame, we can see it better inside this very big channel from H4, right? So this impulse from daily that was like this is this entire movement, and this corrective from daily is this entire movement. So you've got the idea. So we draw our trend lines to add more confluence, or to add more confluence to our sell setups. So as mentioned, from daily and weekly, we have a very nice resistance around here. And for now, from H4 time frame, we know that we also have a non-horizontal resistance. So as you can see here, we have an intersection between the non-horizontal resistance and this horizontal resistance. So it would be a very, very good idea, or a very strong place to look for sell setups, knowing that price can still trade a little bit higher to get more liquidity before going down. In this case, as price approaches this area, we are only interested in selling the DXY. As I always say, don't buy first of all around resistance, and second, don't buy when the impulse is already over. So for example, here we have an impulse. Don't look for buy setups when the impulse is already over. Always look for buy setups at the start of the impulse, right? So if price is going up, don't try to rush and enter your buy, as price can always correct before going up. So just like here, for example, so don't buy at the end of the impulse, wait for the corrective movement, and then we can jump in. And here we go. So from daily and weekly, we know that we have a resistance, we have a support. Now from H4, things are getting clearer. We have this entire channel, which adds more confluence that we are looking for setups around here. And of course, as price approaches our lower support, we'll be looking for buy setups. And as mentioned from daily, if price breaks it upward, then our resistance will become support, and we'll be looking for buy setups. Now, we can zoom in, right? First of all, we start with a zoomed out, and then we zoom in. Now you can see that this one is overall bearish from a short-term perspective. Price is making higher highs and higher lows, and as mentioned, we are already in the impulse movement, and this impulse movement can last around here, or can or can even now be done, and we would start the corrective movement. We can't really know where the impulse would start or end. And as I always say, don't try to catch the exact tops and bottoms. So many traders would try to catch that the corrective will start from here, and then they will get stuck inside this bullish trend. Always wait for the market. So as I always say, trading is like chess, right? So always wait for your opponent to make the first move, and then you will act accordingly. So we are now overall bullish from a short-term perspective, but from daily time frame, we know that we are overall bearish, and from weekly, as mentioned before, we are around resistance. So as price approaches this area, we are looking for sell setups, right? But since we are in a bullish trend, it wouldn't be a good idea to sell now, right? We want the momentum to be shifted from bullish to bearish. That's why we'll try to draw trend lines. Here we go. And we always try to make an offset for this trend line to identify the upper bound of this movement. For example, here, if we can draw this trend line, we try to make an offset for it. Here we go. So we know that this one would act as an oversold area, and as price approaches it, we can start to look for buy setups. And this one, of course, as usual, it's a zone and not a laser line. So here we go. So this one could be like this, could be like this. Just like support and resistance, trend lines are zones on our charts and not laser lines. So don't sell or buy exactly if price tests or touches the trend line. Okay, here we go. And also here we could, as mentioned before, look for buy setups as price was sitting around a support zone. Anyway, now we are in a bullish trend, right? From a short-term perspective, we want the momentum to be shifted to look for sell setups. But anyway, price is now still far from our resistance. So we want this one to dive in inside of the resistance. And as mentioned before, as you can remember, this one is a very, very strong area as we have the intersection of this non-horizontal resistance and this horizontal resistance. Now we have a third intersection. So this area is a very strong area to look for sell setups, right? Because we have this this trend line, which I consider an overbought area in this case, as it is above price. And we also consider that when price approaches this area, we know that the market is now overextended and it's time to make a retest. And of course, price can still break it up a little bit before going down. So around here, we can see this movement, for example, before going down. As mentioned before, trend lines are zones and not laser lines. Here we go. So price can still go dive around this area before going down. Don't just sell if price touches a certain trend line. Next, so we are overall bullish. That's what we know for now, right? But we'll be looking for sell setups. And since we are overall bullish, right, and price rejected the support and trading higher, we can look for trend following buy setups from a short-term perspective. So if price retests this lower trend line, which is also a zone, right? I don't have to remind you, which is also a zone. So if price retests this area, we can look for buy setups on lower time frames for price to approach the resistance before going down. So we have two possible scenarios from here. We have a short-term trend and a long-term trend. First, for the short-term trend, as price approaches this area, we'll be looking for sell setups. As price approaches this area or lower trend line, we're looking for buy setups, right? And so on. Now price, here we go. And for a full reversal or a full trend continuation, as mentioned from daily, as price is overall bearish, impulse corrective, impulse corrective, impulse corrective, and we are now in the corrective phase. So we are speculating an impulse, right? Unless, as mentioned, price breaks above our resistance, and then it will become support. Sorry, sometimes I get overexcited. I start to talk fast, but let me try to talk a little bit slower. So for now, from the short-term perspective, we'll be looking for sell setups and buy setups around these two key rejection levels or zones, right? And for a full reversal, we'll be waiting for a break above our trend line, but our lower trend line is not valid yet to enter on to break upward or downward. That's why, for example, let's see price will go up like this. Sorry about that. Let me fix it. Here we go. So let's see price will go up, then forms a new swing here, and here we go. Then we are only interested in selling the XY for the long term, in a long-term perspective, when this swing is broken downward. So that's the first case for from a long-term perspective. From daily, impulse corrective. Now we are in the corrective movement, so we are looking to jump and to catch this next impulse movement, which as you can see here. So let me show you an example. Impulse, right? And if we can even zoom out, here we go. Yes, here we go. So here we go. Impulse, we search for patterns. For example, we draw a trend line like this and went on to break downward. Then we had this impulse. We can search, we have like here, like a flag, right? Here we go. So we always search for patterns on the impulse movement to catch the next. We always search for patterns on the corrective movement to catch the next impulse. Then we have this flat corrective movement. For example, here we have a head and shoulders pattern, right? Here we go, and then price breaks below its neckline, and here we go, we have an impulse. Now we are also in a corrective movement. That's why we are looking for sell setups. Impulse, pattern, impulse, pattern, impulse, pattern, impulse, and now we are forming this pattern, right? So we are still overall bearish. Let me zoom in again. Here we go, right? And yes, let me zoom out and zoom in again. Here we go. So from a long-term perspective, we're waiting for this one, but now let's take it step by step, right? This movement seems too far for now, or price can still go up and break it upward, but we are just, here we go. For now, we'll be looking, we are still overall bullish from a short-term perspective, impulse, corrective, impulse, right? From daily, we have a bearish trend. From this corrective movement is an entire trend on H4 time frame, right? So impulse, corrective, this small corrective on daily is this entire movement on H4. That's why we are trying to find a break below it to sell, right? But first things first, we want price to trade lower from here to form this swing and then enter on its break downward. So for now, we'll be waiting for price to approach this area. Then we'll zoom into lower time frames. Now we'll take an example to know that the corrective movement, short-term corrective movement is getting started. Then we can sell around here. And of course, as price approaches this one from a short-term perspective from M30 and H1, we can look for buy setups, right? Here we go. So now, if we can zoom in to see where this impulse may end, we can zoom in like this. And here we go. We can see, don't know if we can see it better. No, we can see it better on H1. And yes. So now from M30 time frame, we can draw this trend line. Here we go. Let me make it in red. And let's make these ones to show on M30 as well. Yes. And here we go. So that's, as I always say, that's how we make a top-down analysis. We start from the weekly, daily H4, and look how deep we are going now, right? And yes, as usual, now you can draw this one, or you can even draw this one. It doesn't really matter for now, as price is still going up. Anyway, when price makes the corrective movement, we will see if it will form a new swing around here, or a new swing around this one. Okay, but for now, let's stick to this one as it's following the price better. And as usual, we'll try to make an offset to know the overall direction. And yes, price is respecting this channel as well. Here we go, and look. Let me also add the brown trend line to see it on M30. Yes. Here we go. So as you can see here, we have many intersections, right? So we have brown, green, orange, and red. So this entire area is a very strong area. So for now, we are still speculating a bullish movement on the XY to reach this area, to get more liquidity, to be able to push price lower. And of course, when this happens, or if price, and of course, price can still reverse from here, right? It doesn't have to go up, but we know that if it goes up around here, we know that this area would be a very interesting area to look for setups. So from M30 time frame, we'll be waiting for price to go up, or even from here, but we'll be waiting for a new swing to form around our lower red trend line to consider it objective, or to consider it valid for those who don't have RichTL. And then we will enter sell. We can enter sell on its break downward. As usual, sell, stop loss above the last swing, and 2-to-1 steward ratio, which would be around our lower orange trend line, right? So that's how we now quote. Here we go. So that's how now we can catch this corrective movement. And then of course we'll catch this one, and then we will see if we'll have a full reversal or we'll have a trend continuation for the short term for a full reversal for the long term. In this case, if price breaks the resistance upward, we'll be looking for buy setups as mentioned before, right? But now let's get started with the first move. First things first, we'll be waiting for this corrective movement. Sorry. Wait for this corrective movement to form, and then we will look for buy here, and then we'll see if we'll have a break or we'll have a trend continuation as mentioned before. So and yes, and that's it for the XY. If you like the video, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you have any questions, please feel free to post it in the comment section below. Or if you would like me to talk about a specific idea or analyze a specific pair or any instrument, just let me know in the comments. And best of luck.